Hi everyone, it's Lindy on here from Pink Whisper Designs. Today I thought we'd make a fun little pivot pop-up card using some Lawn Fawn products. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to be doing all of our stamping on the Strathmore Bristol Smooth 100-pound cardstock. And these are the stamps that we're going to be using from Lawn Fawn. All of these little dinosaurs that are just so adorable, the volcano and lava, and then we'll be using one of those sentiments a little bit later. And this is the Rawrsome set and the coordinating dies. And we also have the palm tree and the coconut from the Life is Good set, and also the coordinating dies as well. So I went ahead and stamped and die cut everything, and we have all the dinosaurs, about 12 coconuts, 6 palm trees, and 2 of the volcanoes. We're going to be using our distress markers in Twisted Citron, Mermaid Lagoon, Tumbled Glass, and Spun Sugar, and also the water brush. This is a detailer tip water brush from Tim Holtz as well. So I'm going to start my coloring here, and I usually start with the lightest color first, add a little bit of the darker color, and then I'm going to come in with that water brush, and I'm just going to start to blend these together. Now you could also use a blender marker here as well. Tombow makes a really nice blender marker that I use that often as well. But today I thought I'd use the water just to make this go a little bit quicker. So you do want to test the water brush on your scrap paper before you use it. You want to make sure that you have enough water, but again, not too much water. So I usually test it on a paper towel or a piece of scrap paper before I go to my cardstock. And you also want to make sure that it's clean. So when you change colors, you do want to clean off the brush tip on your scrap paper, and then you can go to the next color. So here I'm just going to use a little bit of that bright green on the little spots there. So now we're going to use spun sugar, cracked pistachio, peacock feathers, and abandoned coral to do this little guy here. And I don't know, I just thought this combination was really pretty. I ended up this was my favorite one here. And I just think these are just so cute. So again, I'm using the same exact technique. And these distress markers, again, are by Tim Holtz. And they coordinate with all the other Tim Holtz products. All of his sprays, the ink pads, the re-inkers, everything is nice because it all coordinates together. And the oxides as well. All the oxide inks are in the same exact color tone. So it's really nice if you want to coordinate everything together. And then I'm just applying a little bit of pink to his cheeks there. Now for this one, I'm going to be using spun sugar, wilted violet, seedless preserves, and the abandoned coral again. And again, basically the same technique for all of these. I left the coloring in just because I wanted to use kind of a different combination of colors to do these, so I thought I would leave it in so that you would know what I did. And I did speed it up just so it wouldn't take up too much time because this video did get a little bit long, so I tried to edit this down as best as possible here. I did want to say that these markers are dual tip markers, so you have a brush tip on one end and a bullet tip on the other end, which really makes it nice if you want to use the bullet tip to sign the inside of your card or to address the envelope. It works really well. So here again, I'm just blending this out a little bit more. Now for this one, I'm using spun sugar, spiced marmalade, and mustard seed. And if you want to check out another pivot pop-up card that I did previously, the name of it was called Lawn Fawn Birthday Cake Parade Card. And if you go to my blog, which you'll find down below here, it'll take you over to the Lawn Fawn videos that I've done, and you can check that one out as well. So I'm going to just, again, continue to blend this. Now for the little tiny dinosaur, I did it the exact same way I did that larger one, same colors. For the palm tree, I'm using Vintage Photo, Wild Honey, Peeled Paint, and Twisted Citron. And again, the lightest color, the darker color, and then blending them together. But I did come back in at the end with a little bit of that darker color, just because I just didn't think it was dark enough. Just needed a little bit more of a shadowing. And then on the trunk of the tree, I'm just pulling the color over from left to right. I'm just kind of like lifting up my pen and pulling it over. And here you can see where I'm coming back in with that darker color. And I did all of my palm trees the exact same way. Now with Wild Honey and Spice Marmalade, I'm going to color in all of these little coconuts. And I did all of those off camera. And now with Black Soot, Spun Sugar, and Fired Brick, I'm going to color in the volcano, the lava on the volcanoes. I just wanted them to kind of have that pinky tone to kind of coordinate with the sky that we're going to be doing, I should say. So I didn't go like a dark red. I just kind of wanted it to be sort of a pinky red. And then here on the bottom, I applied that black soot, and I'm just pulling it down. And I don't want it to be even. I kind of wanted it to kind of have like just an uneven look to it, like a volcano, I guess, would. Although I've never seen one in person, that's what I imagined it to look like. So that's what I did here. So you can blend that out more if you want to, but I decided to leave it just like that. Now I'm going to take all of these little pieces here and add some Nouveau Crystal Glaze. This is just a clear glaze, and I'm adding it to the lava on the volcanoes, and I'm going to add it to each of those little coconuts. And then that'll give me time to let those dry. But before I do, I'm going to take my glitter mister, and I will give you the information for this down below. And this has a little nozzle on it that you can adjust to point in any direction you want. And you just pump the top there, and it releases kind of like a dusting of glitter, which is really nice. So I'm just going to kind of spray a little dusting of glitter on these pieces here while they're still wet. And that will allow the glitter to dry permanently on this glaze. So I don't know, I'm trying to get it here so you can see it, but you can see how it sprayed that light misting of the glitter. Now with the Stitch Mountain borders, I'm going to go ahead and do 2 borders. And I'm using that smaller one here. So these panels measure 5.5 inches wide, and this one is about 3 inches tall before I cut that panel. So I have 2 of the exact same panels, and again, one for the inside and one for the outside. And now for the stitched hillside borders, I'm going to be doing like a little sandy border here. So I went ahead and used that wavy border, and then I'm using the sandy beach accents, the 3 smallest ones, to do the little stitched accents on this sandy edge here. So I went ahead and die cut that. Now with the Spun Sugar, Wilted Violet, and Picked Raspberry, I'm going to go ahead and do my sky. I just want to determine where the lightest area is going to be here. So I'm using my applicator tool, and I'm starting with the Spun Sugar. I'm just going to apply a nice coating of that in a circular motion here. And then I'm going to come in with the Picked Raspberry, and I'm just going to tap off a little bit of the excess and then start to blend that into that Spun Sugar color. And then I'm going to come in with the Wilted Violet, and again do the same thing, just kind of tapping it off a little bit and then coming onto the cardstock and blending it right into that Picked Raspberry color. And I'm going to do as many layers of this until I get the right shading of color that I wanted. And I'm going to continue to blend, and with that lightest one, I'm going to blend that whole thing out. Now with my Distress Sprayer, which just has water in it, I'm going to spray that a little bit and blot it up with a paper towel, and that's going to leave this beautiful spattered effect. And I did the same thing on the inside upper panel of the card. So now I have these two borders. I'm taking my black soot Distress Oxide ink, and I'm just going to apply a little bit of that ink up at the top of each of these little mountains, just to give it a little bit of a shadow. And I did the same thing for both panels. Now these are the pieces for the pivot pop-up. These are the dies, and it's called the Pivot Pop-Up from Lawn Fawn. And I'm going to be die cutting that out of the Kraft cardstock. It's a 100-pound weight. So I die cut my little panels here, and you need two of these here, and then that's the pivot section. And then from the outside in stitch rectangle stackables, I'm going to take that largest die, and I'm going to die cut that out of the Kraft cardstock as well. So we have our sandy border, our rectangle, and all the pieces for the pivot pop-up. Now using the Gathered Twigs Distress Oxide, I'm going to start applying a little bit of a shadow here to all of these pieces. And on this one, I'm just going all the way around and kind of leaving a light section in the middle, and then just pulling those little slits forward and applying a little bit of ink to the top of those little borders. And then here again, I'm going around all four corners, and then I'm leaving the center the lightest. And that'll be for the inside lower section of the card. Now with this front panel completed, that's what that's going to look like. I'm going to go back to this pivot portion, and I'm going to take these two little panels here with the tabs on them, and I'm going to ink up all the way around, and then these two little borders as well. And I don't need to do anything with that piece because it's not going to show. So I've applied my Gathered Twigs ink to my glass media mat, and I'm spritzing it with a little bit of water. And then I'm going to take my fan brush, and I'm just going to spatter these pieces. Again, just to give them a little bit more texture. I'm also going to spatter the rectangular piece that's going on the inside of the card. And then I'm also going to do that little sandy border. I'm going to set those aside to dry. And once they're dry, I'm going to start to attach this front panel. So this is my ATG 700 tape dispenser. And I've applied tape all over the back of this gray panel. And now for this piece here, the sandy border, I decided to add a sentiment. It says, "Hope your birthday is," and then I just added 3 little dots at the end of that with my Faber-Castell Pitt Artist Pen in the black. And I did line that up in my MISTI just to get it positioned properly, and then I stamped it using my Onyx Black VersaFine ink. And now here I'm just going to attach my little palm trees with my glue, just kind of temporarily positioning them in place here. And then I'm going to flip it over and add some tape to the entire back of this panel and attach this to the front of the card as well. Now I did decide to pop that up a little bit there, so I'm using the Gina K foam squares. And I'm just going to put a little foam square behind each of the tops of these palm trees just to give them a little bit more dimension. And on the front of the card, we can add dimension. But on the inside of the card, we want to keep it as flat as possible because we don't want it to get too bulky. So add your dimension to the front if you want to. Now with the little volcano, I'm just going to glue that down flat. And I'm going to do the same thing for the lava. And for this little dinosaur here, I am going to add a little dimension with my foam squares. And now I'm going to grab those little coconuts, and I'm just going to glue those on the front of my card. And I popped up a few of them here and there. So now that's complete. So now for the inside of the card, I want to go ahead and attach this gray panel as well. And I'm just placing it just above that fold line. And then I'm again going to attach the little volcano and the lava as well. Now for this portion, those two are going to get attached together with those little tabs. So I'm going to take my 1/4 inch double-sided tape. I'm going to apply a little bit of tape to each of those two tabs. Then I'm going to remove the backing, and I'm just going to butt these two up right against each other and make sure they're perfectly straight and attach those together. Now I'm going to fold the side in towards the front of the card on both sides, and I'm just pressing it out with my bone folder. And then that middle section is going to fold forward. So it's going to be like an accordion fold here. And again, I'm using my bone folder to press that out. So you can see it forms like a W shape here. So now that is going to sit on the inside of the card on that pivot. But I wanted to finish my stamping. So now I'm going to stamp the word dynamite with the exclamation point on the inside of the card. So again, I'm going back to my MISTI just to make sure that everything is positioned properly. I'm going to attach that little exclamation point there. I'm going to ink this up again with my VersaFine Onyx Black ink and stamp this. So now that that panel is stamped, I can go ahead and attach it to the inside of my card. So now we're going to work on the pivot mechanism here. And you can see it has all these little score lines on it. So this first one we're going to fold away from ourselves. And that's down that center line there, and I'm just pressing it out with my bone folder. And then for the two crisscross folds, we're going to fold towards ourselves. So those are going to get folded and scored as well with the bone folder here. And then you can see that it almost kind of collapses in on itself here. So we're just going to press it down in and fold it flat. That's going to create those two little triangles at the top here. So again, I'm using my bone folder to press those down, just making sure this is going to lie nice and flat. And so you can see here, that's our little pivot mechanism. Now we're going to apply tape to those two triangles at the top here. So I'm going back to my 1/4 inch double-sided tape, and I'm just going to apply tape all over these little triangles. And you want a nice heavy-duty tape here. So you want to make sure that whatever you use here is going to be nice and sturdy, because this card is going to be getting opened and closed quite a bit, and you do have that thick panel that's going to be attached to it. So I'm just removing the backing here from one of the triangles, and I want to show you here there's a couple ways of attaching this. You can center that point right on the center of your card, or you can use that little hole in the center of the pivot, line it up with the score line in the center of your card, and press it down that way. I prefer this way, so I'm just going to take that point, center it on the fold of my card, and press it down. Now you could use a pencil mark here to determine the center. I just kind of eyeballed it, but either way would work fine. I'm removing the backing from this second triangle, closing the card and just pressing that down, and that's going to pick up that pivot there. Now that leaves these two little rectangular areas here. You can see that score line there. We're going to put tape right in those little areas. Again, going back to my 1/4 inch tape, and I just want to make sure it's only in that rectangular area. So I'm just snipping away any excess that I have. And now this is going to get centered on the card. But first I want to finish decorating this little panel before I attach it. So I'm going to fold these little borders in half towards me, and I'm just going to press down on those score lines. And then I'm just going back to my glue, and I'm going to attach those. I'm not putting glue all the way up to the top because I want to leave a little room to tuck my palm trees in here in a minute. So I'm just going to press those in place, just making sure they're lined up properly. Now that I have both of those glued down, I'm just going to fold it again just to make sure everything's laying nice and flat, and pressing that out again with my bone folder. And now I'm going to start to attach my little pieces here. Now on this palm tree, I did realize it was a little too long, so I cut the end of it down a little bit to slide it in the top of that little border there. And then I'm just going to go ahead and attach all my little pieces. Again, just cutting a little bit off these palm trees so that they would tuck down in there nicely. And again, in the inside of the card, you do want to keep things flat, just so it doesn't get too bulky inside. So I just use glue to attach all of these pieces. So now I did decide to go back to this little stamp set and grab the two flowers. This one here stamps the outside of the flower, and then the other one is solid and stamps the inside of the flower. So basically, you can use that to color them in, and you'll see that here in a minute. So I'm just randomly applying these little flowers. I thought I'd just add a little bit more of that pink and purpley color down here. So I've stamped them, a few on the front and on that panel for the inside. And then with this solid piece, I'm inking it up using the pink and the purple that I used in the sky. And if you line it up properly, it'll fill in the center of the flower there. So again, you don't have to use markers to color it in. So it made this really quick and easy to do. And then I just switched colors to the picked raspberry to fill in the rest of these. So now I'm going to take my white Jelly Roll pen, and I'm just going to add some white to the center of all those little flowers. And then I'm just going to create a little highlight on all these little items here. And this is just going to add a little bit more interest and just kind of a whimsical touch. So now we have those two panels all set. So now we can go ahead and attach this accordion panel on the inside of our card. So I'm going to remove the backing from this pivot section here. And so I've removed the backing from the tape, and now I want to line this up. There is a little score mark at the center of this little pivot, but I'm marking it with a pencil so that you can see it here. So you want to line up the center of the accordion folded panel with that score line and then press this in place. Just making sure it's nice and straight before you press it down. And now you can close the card and it'll close flat, but you do need to play with this a little bit. So once you close it, just spend a little time here pressing this out. And you'll want to open and close it quite a few times just to make sure that everything is working properly. So now that I have that all set, I'm just going to attach this last little dinosaur here. And now I can go ahead and attach that front panel to my card. So I've just applied some double stick tape to the back of that front panel, and I'm going to attach it to my card. So that's going to complete our card for today, and I'll give you a closer look here at all the detail that we created with that beautiful pink and purple sky. And then I just love this pop-up. And as I mentioned earlier, there is another one on my blog. It's called the Lawn Fawn Birthday Cake Parade card. So you could check that out as well. There's a link below to my blog. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe. And don't forget to visit me at pinkwhisperdesigns.com. Thank you so much and have a great day. Bye-bye.